Well, here we are. It's a mad, mad world out there for an animation fan. Just about 12 years ago, it seemed like the whole darn scene was on its way out. Dark times, those were. Dark times. But just when it seemed all was lost, that's when they walked into my office.
If you've watched my channel at all, you know I'm big on cartoons, particularly Cartoon Network. I mean, sure, growing up, Nickelodeon had my beloved SpongeBob and Invader Zim, and Disney Channel had the masterpiece that was Dave the Barbarian.
The Dark Lord!
Shuckles, the silly piggy!
But both Nick and Disney did this weird thing where they also had shows with real people in them. And that's boring! Why would I want to watch a bunch of corporeal beings when over on Cartoon Network it's cartoons all the dang time? You had Ed, Edd n Eddy, Billy and Mandy, Powerpuff Girls, frickin' Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and Courage the Cowardly Dog, which, I mean, I didn't really watch, but everyone else seemed to like it. The logo at the end scared me. You know, the one that laughed like, Anyway, the point is, as a kid who loved cartoons more than his own family, sorry mom, Cartoon Network gave me everything I could have ever wanted. So I have to ask, what the heck happened in the late 2000s? By the end of the 2000s, my beloved Cartoon Network had become a ghost of its former self. The classics like Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and Cow and Chicken, Fight Me, were long over. And the next wave of shows that came after, like Billy and Mandy, Foster's Home, Teen Titans, Camp Lazlo, Class of 3000, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi, and Squirrel Boy, all of them classics, don't at me, those were also starting to wrap up. Most of what Baby Fofi associated with Cartoon Network was done. Over. Even Toonami ended in the late 2000s. And if you're anything like me, Naruto running in gym class, trying to go Super Saiyan during recess, that's a pretty intense blow. And yes, I was that kid. So Cartoon Network was going through yet another major shift. But instead of putting out another batch of fresh, new, original cartoons, something weird started happening. They started putting out stuff like Out of Jimmy's Head, Destroy Build Destroy, and Dude What Would Happen. And these were some really weird cartoons. They don't even look like cartoons. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd say Cartoon Network was making live action shows. No, they wouldn't do that. But they did. The channel literally called the Cartoon Network was shifting focus to live action and ew. Now, obviously, there were still plenty of cartoons on Cartoon Network. There was Total Drama, 16, and that weird George of the Jungle cartoon that I only remember because I barfed while watching it once. The thing about these cartoons, though, is that they were all Canadian shows, not made by Cartoon Network. The only Cartoon Network originals I even remember from this time were Chowder and The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Awesome shows, don't get me wrong, but you gotta sit through a lot of Andrew WK to get to them. And unfortunately, this was the point that I started to lose interest in Cartoon Network, and TV in general. 2010 was around the time that I discovered YouTube and fell far down that rabbit hole. But while I wasn't paying attention, the wizards over at Cartoon Network were cooking up a serious stew. For you see, in 2010, a couple new shows made their way onto Cartoon Network that would change the course of TV animation for the rest of the decade. And that's not even an exaggeration. These were J.G. Quintel's Regular Show and Pendleton Ward's Adventure Time. Regular Show was a really fun slice of life thing about Longbird and Small Furry working at a local park and doing everyday normal things, like going to get a grilled cheese, pretending to be astronauts, and ultimately having to stop a massive antimatter explosion from destroying everyone and everything in its path. You know, just regular stuff. I don't know why I did a southern accent. And Adventure Time was... well, that was just freaking weird, dude. As the show went on, it became incredibly psychedelic, existential, and rich with deep story and character development. But when it first premiered, Adventure Time was just pure wacky. You had a human boy named Finn and a magical shape-shifting dog named Jake going on adventures, fighting monsters, meeting people made of candy, turning into feet, and singing in auto-tune. yeah, the shows were pretty weird. But that's what made them so special. And people definitely took notice, with both shows doing crazy well in the ratings, bringing in viewers both young and old. Adventure Time in particular basically became the face of Cartoon Network, with Finn and Jake acting as unofficial mascots. So like, holy crap, Cartoon Network's making cartoons again! And they just so happen to be really good and really popular. And big head honcho CN's like, oh, Dib, you guys actually like cartoons? Well, frig, dude, what are we paying Andrew WK for? And then the floodgates opened. The Amazing World of Gumball, Uncle Grandpa, OKKO Let's Be Heroes, Rick and Morty, which I just did a whole video about, but I couldn't not mention it here, We Bare Bears, Over the Garden Wall, Ben 10 trillion versions of the same show. Jesus Christ, why are they still making Ben 10?
And Steven!
The flood of new original cartoons quickly went from a light drizzle to a torrential downpour. And I paid attention to none of it. Yeah, I was so into YouTube throughout most of the 2010s that I straight up stopped watching TV. It wasn't until 2017 that I started digging into all this stuff I missed, and Lord, so much of it is so good. Gumball is this meta fever dream of a sitcom where just about every character looks like they came from completely separate shows. OKKO is just pure pureness? Like, I've never seen a show that is just so relentlessly pleasant. It's a show about fighting robots and having friends. What more do you want? We Bare Bears is also really fun and cute, and I've heard Over the Garden Wall is amazing, but I still haven't watched it yet. Uncle Grandpa is not good. Steven Universe is amazing. I've already made 2 videos about Steven Universe on this channel, and I know I'm gonna be making more in the future, so I won't repeat myself here. But yeah, this is my favorite show of all time, and the new Future series, or as I call it, Steven Universe Z, has not disappointed me at all. It is so good. Steven needs therapy. Cartoon Network was back on track, and probably better than ever. I mean, yeah, they still have some less than amazing shows in the roster. They rebooted Powerpuff Girls, and it's cursed, and one of their biggest shows of the last few years is Teen Titans Babies, and they just keep rerunning it into the ground! But Cartoon Network still put out more instant classics in one decade than some channels could ever hope to. But that's not to say other networks weren't pulling their weight. Cartoon Network may have started the ball rolling on all these new shows, but that spark of inspiration spread everywhere. Our favorite owner of everything, Disney, gave us probably one of the most perfect cartoons ever in Gravity Falls. A show that grabbed the world by the wattles with its gripping mystery that expanded beyond just the show. Plus, we got 2 of my personal favorite cartoons ever, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and a reboot of DuckTales, which is basically just Gravity Falls and Donald Duck mascot costumes, and I mean that in the best way. Streaming services popped up with tons of their own original cartoons, plus reboots of classics, and Nickelodeon, I mean, I hear Legend of Korra's good. That Ninja Turtle show. Okay, I don't really know what all's going on at Nick, but that's a story for another day. But all golden ages come to an end. Back on Cartoon Network, in 2017, a regular show ended its 8-season run with a big outer space finale. And in 2018, after a ridiculous 10-season run, Adventure Time also came to an end. And even though there's still a few shows from the early 2010s running today, Adventure Time's finale really felt like the end of an era. I mean, that was until a year later when they announced 4 new Adventure Time specials coming to HBO, because nothing's allowed to just end anymore. Good lord. Reboot my life. But yeah, we're in kind of another transitional period. Gravity Falls has been over for years, Starverses ended earlier this year, as did OKKO. Steven Universe Future is the final season of Steven Universe. After that, it's done. Gumball will eventually go so meta that reality will collapse in on itself and it will have never existed in the first place, so it'll be off the air too. The 2010s are over, and the renaissance of cartoons we saw in the 2010s is also reaching its end. But the last decade really gave us some of the greatest cartoons ever at a time when we had, like, nothing. These shows changed the game, inspired so many, and have set the tone for another decade of amazing stuff. But I'm just saying, when Steven Universe is over, I'm out.